from a really small town in Massachusetts. Like by small, I mean there's less than 2,000 people. So it's extremely rural. There's a lot of land and also a lot of farmland, and a lot of white people.
That's always like an interesting, kind of difficult question because so I grew up most of the year in Maine, also a small town. My town was 99% white, or maybe it's 98, either way it was like mostly white people. But then like during the summers I would spend most of the summer in California with my dad and like some of my siblings, and like they live in Oakland, so it was like very different. But I don't think I would say I feel at home in either of those places, and I've definitely like felt more at home with like the communities I've made at school than like either of the places like I'm from. Yeah.
I don't like it when people ask where I'm from. I feel like very embarrassed about it, and I feel that people are going to assume a lot of things about like how I think about myself and who I am based off of where I come from.
Yeah, I also feel like a really similar embarrassment when I'm like, oh, I'm from Maine, because I feel like there's just like this attitude that there are no black people in Maine, that if you are like black from Maine, you're like a self-hating black person, you can't possibly like, I don't know.
And then there's so many questions behind it, like what is this black man and black family doing in rural Massachusetts, and why would they want to end up there? I think a lot of times when people look at me, they assume that I have a black parent and a white parent.
I always like was black, and it was never assumed that I was anything else. But I was also like with people, always assumed I was mixed, because like a lot of people in Maine don't have exposure to black people. So like, if you're black, you're like really dark skinned, and like that's it. And if you're like any lighter than dark skinned, then you're mixed. But then when I came here, I got a lot of like people didn't think I was mixed. Yeah.
I came to Tufts and I had this really strange idea that like this would be, it sounds strange, like hopeful idea that this would be where I found my people that were like me, because I didn't have that otherwise, like or at home. It was strange because I came here and was so taken aback as to how like much it wasn't what I thought it would be, or like I wasn't finding the people that I thought I would. And I thought that would come so immediately, but then it was on my first few days into school, and like I was sitting in my suite with other black people, and they were like, well, what are you anyways? And I was like, oh, okay, my dad's black and my mom's Norwegian. I said, oh, okay, my dad's black and my mom's Norwegian. But then they just interrupted me, and they were like, well, all we need to know is that she checks other on the SAT. And I was like, okay, I guess, like, I need to stay in my lane.
I feel like coming to Tufts was the first time I ever felt like not black enough, because like I was talking about in Maine, like I was very clearly black, and it was never a question of like being black. But then like when I would tell people I was from Maine, or like tell people that like I had a white parent, people would be like, oh, so you're like one of those blacks. Like not all black people are the same. And so then that happened within like my first couple of weeks at school too. So then like I also isolated myself, and I was like, well, I'm obviously not wanted or welcome in this community. Going 18 years with like only being around black people for like 3 months, like 2 or 3 months, was like really hard. And like a lot of things happened in Maine that like it would have been nice to like have black friends and family to support me through, and I didn't have that. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna come to Tufts, like it's gonna be better, like I'm gonna be able to like build and find a community of like black people who are gonna like love and support me, and I'll love and support them. And then like automatically I felt like excluded.
I'm doing something wrong, and I had a skewed perception of who I was. That was my immediate reaction. So then I think I really like isolated myself from being around the spaces and people that I wanted to was hard. It's hard to exist at Tufts University and not constantly like be questioning if you should be here, how you got here, and then like, oh, what is the world after this, and how do I exist in that, and what's my place in that. And so like, I'm not wrong to be questioning those things, but then I should also know that I don't know, my existence isn't wrong.
Yeah!
So comforting! When you're growing up in elementary school, middle school, high school, which are already really uncomfortable times, and then everyone's white, you're never not black, because people are constantly, in my experience, touching my hair, putting things in it, calling me slurs, and then I laugh. You couldn't ever escape that. And I wanted to escape that, I didn't want to escape being black, or maybe I did.
Like, it was really horrible.
And then it's
like a catch-22, because what can you do besides laugh so that people will like not do worse things? But then people are like, oh, they're laughing, they're okay with it. So you spend like 18 years in like these schools and these places where people are like putting their fingers in your hair, and like I would be at work with like adults who were like 40 years old, and they would like call me Black Shadow, and like that was like my nickname at work, which is just like not okay. But everyone's like, oh, like Carissa laughs about it, so it's okay.
I'm gonna have trouble putting this into words. I think it's difficult to find spaces to like express or like just sort of relieve all of those experiences. It goes hand in hand with your mixed privilege or privilege as a mixed person, and so I joke a lot about being a tragic mulatto, because I think that like trope historically is something it's very interesting to me, like how that has been used as a device to gain sympathy for white people or so many things. And I joke a lot about that, but then I'm like, oh, I can't, like, I don't want to say this thing because I'm just being a tragic mulatto. Like, I'm fine, I don't have anything to complain about, and again, I really need to check myself.
There is an inherent privilege with growing up like with like a white parent or like white parents, and like when I was at home, I was and like with my mom, I was treated very differently than when I was like with my dad and my black family. Like there are definitely moments where like if I wasn't with like my white mom, like I was like followed around stores and stuff in Maine, but like in California that was like constant. Like I was constantly, when I was like with my dad and my siblings, was like constantly treated as like we're like suspicious. So like there obviously is a privilege with like growing up with a white parent, but it's also like I think we're like so allowed to like have like feelings of like frustration or anger, but then it's like, oh, like what are you complaining about? That we talk about a lot.
Something that always happened to me, I was talking about this with my sister the other day, or maybe not the other day, but like all my friends used to say that my dad was so scary. My dad is not
such a nerd.
Such a nerd. And a very like approachable, friendly human being. And I just never understood. Also, like I didn't understand that until recently when we were talking about it. And we were like, why was that? That all of our friends thought that our dad was so scary. Like my friends and her friends who were older than me. It's just strange. I mean, it's racist, but it's strange. I just black.
Oh, nice. What is it?
I forgot what African American is. It's strange because I never thought that I would come to this school and find another black girl from rural New England. I find so much comfort in seeing my own experiences reflected in my friendships, which isn't to say that I don't have or form close relationships with people who don't experience life the same way I do or have experienced life the same way that I do. But like I said, there's so much comfort in it.
We have like very similar lived experiences, I think. So like, I feel like it was, how can we not be friends?
We met in taking Race in America.
People go to dinner like after the class, and then we just like both were like, we'd be like, oh, blah, blah, this. We'd be like, oh, same. But I think we didn't really become close friends until that summer. I think so much of the processing and growing I've done has come through my friendship with Morgan. Like, I just don't think I would have ever done, like, even come to a place where, like, I love and care about myself without her, and she also pushes me to, like, keep doing learning in ways that I don't. And I feel like at school sometimes it's like, there's, like, this attitude, especially in, like, I'm an American Studies major, where, like, here, like, you get to this level of learning and then you're done, and you, like, don't have to keep doing it. But Morgan, like, always definitely pushes me to, like, keep thinking about the world and, like, our own bodies in the world differently, and always remember that, like, our experiences are valid, which sometimes I don't do on my own.
In the past, like, I've felt shamed for growing and, like, expanding the way that I understand my life and my body and the world.
It's also just really nice to, like, not feel alone anymore. Not that we don't still have moments where we both, like, feel alone or lonely, but, like, with Morgan, I always feel like I can go back and be like, when everything else feels crazy in the world and I feel, like, overwhelmed, I'm like, well, I still have Morgan. I feel like I've really grown a lot from, like, honestly, like, elders in the American Studies community. Like, there are people who were seniors when I was a freshman who, like, were really amazing and doing amazing work. Christina Sharp is, like, my mentor. I think often I can, like, feel really hopeless, and Christina has, like, taught me to always like, think about how, like, infusing joy into the world in our lives and how important that is to realizing or, like, thinking about a better world.
Yeah, I remember a conversation about that we had in the class once about just, like, the humanities in general, like, sort of pitted against STEM, and how, like, how can you imagine and create, how can you create a better world with STEM maybe, or that's how people imagine creating a better world. How can you create a better world if you cannot imagine it with the humanities and, like, things like Black studies. Something that I come back to a lot is how community works on a college campus, because everything turns over and people graduate, people leave, so it's a very strange and uncomfortable thing to, like, to come here and say, wow, these people have, like, taught me what community is, and I've learned what community is through this community, but then people leave.
I think it's really hard to build, like, community between classes when people are leaving. I'm just thinking about, like, some of, like, our relationships with seniors, that, like, it's hard to, like, transfer that into, like, the younger years, and I feel like it's always, like you're talking about, it's really hard because it's 4 years and then it transitions out, and even, like, thinking about, like, organizing, a lot of things, like, die out because, like, people leave, and I feel like college is, like, built that way on purpose. But, like, I've definitely, like, found spaces and places on campus that I didn't ever think I would, where, like, I feel like I'm allowed to also, like, make mistakes and have it be okay, which is something that I think is really important in growth and some people don't think about. But that's something that's important with me in the communities that I found, and, like, also built. Like, I'm not gonna act like they just happened. Like, they also came through really intentional work on my part and others' parts.
You were saying that, oh, when, like, this feels this way, well, there's Morgan, like, I know I have Morgan. So it's just, like, almost like a lighthouse kind of figure, or, like, you know, there's always something more that I can get from our friendship. Yeah. It doesn't end at a certain place. You know?
I just think Morgan's, like, everything that I want to be, and, like, everything I want my students that I teach to be, and everything I want my kids, if I ever have them, to be. I asked her to be the godmother to my kids the other day, and also be the maid of honor. To be the maid of honor at my wedding if I ever get married, even though I don't believe in marriage. She just, like, feels like a powerful force both in my life and I feel like in the world. But she's also, like, kind and warm and loving, and like something that's really important for me is like Morgan's also like really validating and like honestly is like my hype girl. So like yeah, so like when we have bad days we just like hype each other up, and that's really amazing. I've never had in our friendship. And I also think like she doesn't give herself enough credit, and she's like really smart and really intelligent and like really perceptive, and is also just like a really good friend to people and like just a really good human being overall.